We've got a loaded show today with two special guests from Bally Sports, Oklahoma, so let's jump right into the Thunder Basketball Universe presented by COOP Ale Works. Welcome into the Thunder Basketball Universe. We are in the thick of training camp, 2 games in the bag, 2 on the horizon. And so we thought this was a perfect time to bring in 2 very dear friends of the pod, and that's TV play-by-play Chris Fisher and TV analyst Michael Cage. Guys, welcome to the new season and the new studio. We are so glad to have you guys here.
Well, it's nice to be back. I've seen Fish a few times this summer, so I haven't seen a lot of you guys, but I know this building very well, and I can't wait to see the fans.
Mostly on the golf course, I assume the two of you have seen each other this summer.
We're hoping the weather stays warm so we can get a couple more rounds in before the season starts.
We got to put the clubs up now. I don't function very well in cold weather.
Once it gets below 70, no mas.
What's the off season like for you guys as you are, I'm sure, just keeping track of everything that's going on in the NBA and then coming back and needing to be ready to hit the ground running?
Go ahead, Fish, since I interrupted you the first time.
Well, I mean, it's really kind of been bizarre these last 2 off seasons. I mean, you've kind of been yearning for when is the cadence of the season going to kind of resemble some normalcy. And I think that when the season ended in May, you didn't feel it. And then you kind of needed that time off, those couple months where you hit the reset button and you sort of refocus and charge back up. And then come August and September, you're like, oh yeah, this is probably the time where you start thinking a little bit about basketball again. You had the draft, you had summer league, you had free agency that were still a little bit later in the off season, but it got you thinking about it kind of at the right time. And then when September hit and training camp was going to start at the end of September, it just felt like, okay, I think that we're starting to get back to some normalcy with the NBA season coming into focus. And I think that psychologically, I don't know about you, Michael, but for me, it kind of just helped with things sort of falling back into place because it was just so jagged and so chaotic from the moment that the NBA regular season got suspended in March of 2020 to the end of last season in May of 2021. There was just nothing settled seemingly at any given point, whether it was the schedule or the chaos of games. So I think that the summer for me, just getting a little bit of balance back and knowing what to expect psychologically was huge.
Well, you know, I agree with you 100%, but I'll take you from when the season ended. It seemed like everything just kept moving because we didn't get a long off season because of how late the 72-game schedule that started at the end of December went. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you start hearing that talk about free agency. I'm saying to myself, all right, this is going to be back to normal. But everything is kind of compressed because there's very little time left in the summer. Free agency, as you mentioned, the summer league, which I always enjoy going out to see, that eats up most of August. And then getting ready for training camp, the draft, which was before these 2 events, and then waiting to see these players play. I think for our fans that weren't in the building last year, they kind of got, what they wanted. A lot of information about the team, the league, having an 82-game schedule, man. I was really happy about that because I'm going, all right, I know if we don't start sometime in October, we're going to get 82 games in at some point in time. So that was kind of cool to see that everything is starting to come back to normalcy. We're still dealing with the pandemic. Okay, I think we're going to still be always dealing with that for a minute, but I think that the protocols that are in place, for our fans, for the people that work the game, we all feel very comfortable, and, we're looking forward to it.
If you want an in-house expert on Summer League, look no further. Michael Cage is so dialed in every single summer. I had help, though. Going out to Vegas, checking out these young guys. He knows what's up.
He's like the old guy that sits at the baseball stadium with the scorecard out. He's got his
you ever watch Billy Crystal at baseball games?
It's the place for hoopers.
That's right.
It's the place but it's interesting to hear you talk about this past offseason and just how short it felt. And then perspective-wise for me, it felt like eons of time. And Darius Baisley mentioned
Darius,
this. Yeah. Because just in perspective, I'm going into my 3rd season in the NBA. And so it felt like there was so much time to work with when, in fact, it was still a really short off season for the NBA.
Point.
These young pups.
Right. Yeah. She's young, too. She's around Baze's age.
Exactly. They're about the same
It's funny how she can relate to that. I'm like going, well, it seemed long to me. It seemed really short to me.
Well, we talked about the off season. How about getting back into the arena? against Charlotte for the first time, seeing fans back in the building. I know for me, it was just great. That was my first time being on air in the arena with fans in the building. So great to see. I want to get your guys' perspective because that had to have been really nice for you.
Yeah,
Well,
Mike's a celebrity in that building. I mean, all the ushers, they come up. I mean, it's like unbelievable.
My ego went way down.
you didn't have people asking him for pictures on the way into the arena last
It
year.
needs
That was
to
a
be
blow.
built back up again.
Go ahead, Chris.
I
Sorry.
will say this, and it really put in perspective, I should say, the 2021 season did, where there were no fans. And you guys were there every single night, walking into an empty arena, sometimes 9 o'clock at night, where you're basically having to self-stimulate yourself to try to get excited for a game in an empty arena when it's 25 degrees outside and the team's playing on the West Coast. That was an adjustment, 100% full admission there. It's just not normal. But Michael and I actually walked into the arena together for that Charlotte game, the preseason game, and I think it was probably, I don't want to speak for Michael here, but
And there was nobody following us with a nightstick or a badge either.
Yeah,
We just
exactly.
walked in the building.
Excuse me, sir. What are you doing here?
Walked in. You didn't have to show your clear
Credential,
app,
please.
your negative COVID test, whatever it was that we had to do last year. But and I don't want to speak for Michael here, but going through like my normal route and my routine and the people that you see along the way, the people that you're used to saying hi to on the way to the floor, being in the same positions, kind of having that, and then getting the sense of going down and walking out through the tunnel, being back out on the floor, seeing guys up close, having the action right in front of your face. Michael and I were even talking about it the moment we set our backpack down, like, whoa, did we miss this?
Well,
This
you brought
is
up a
just
good point, too.
A whole different experience.
You talked about how you didn't know how tall Teo Maladon was until you got down there on the floor.
Totally.
Because we were never
Yeah.
that close to him last year.
That was how we felt about Josh Giddey. I mean,
Right.
some lineups, he's the biggest guy out there on the floor, and he's a point guard. So it's impressive when you get into those scenarios and you really see courtside what these guys are like that we've only been watching on TV the last 12 months.
I will say this. Michael's been a player, so he this isn't really up his alley. But for us as observers, for anybody that can sit close to an NBA game, like sit on the floor, be courtside, be within shouting distance of those players, it is a completely different experience. Like we were on the top of the lower level throughout the course of last year, and there's some road games where we're posted up there as well. But when you sit on the floor and you are that close, the physicality smacks you in the face.
Yep.
The speed of the game smacks you in the face. The pace of the passes, the athleticism, and Lou Dort's size. Yeah. I mean, I was looking at Mike. I was like, man, I can't believe how big he's gotten. So there's these elements that you sort of get unfamiliar with over the course of the season. You refamiliarize yourself, but it's fun. There's nothing like being down there.
Well, I'll tell you a little quick story. The game the other night against Charlotte, Pokashevsky was about to check in the ball game, and he looks and he gets over to the scorer's table. Now, you know, our seats are always right next to the scorer's table. So he's always kind of parked right there until the officials call him in, especially if there's a couple of guys in front of him. He looks at me and go, "Hey."
Nice to meet you.
Like, I know
that guy.
You know, that's the kind of year it was because I still haven't met him.
Right.
And I've never talked to Teo, you know. So
Right.
I haven't met, you know, quite a few of these guys, especially the new guys now, you know, Giddey, Jeremiah. I mean, it goes on and on, you know, Wiggins. I mean, so for us, I think Charlotte was like, the Charlotte game the other night was like, okay, this is for real. You know,
Reintroduction.
Yeah. You know what I mean? We can put that, whatever that was we were going through last year, behind us now, because I know it must have been tough for you and you know, Paris, you and Nick, to go through that as well, because you know we're all personable. We got some of the best fans in the association. They love this team and they love the people that are involved in this team, so to see them back in the building, I felt like it was almost like a ticker tape parade, you know, like you know, hey, oh, I remember you, and then even you know, the people that work in the Paycom. Center.
Right.
Just seeing them. I got a chance to speak to them about 3 weeks ago to welcome them back. And I'm like going, okay, they're the first line of defense that lets you know that, all right, this is for real. We're back to normal. The fans are here. All of the people that work, you know, in the arena, the vendors.
Yeah.
You know, I got to kind of know a few of them because I still like my popcorn.
I know you got like to go up there, sneak up there between quarters.
I get up there
halftime,
at halftime and get my popcorn. So
That's such a risky maneuver by
It
a
really
broadcaster,
is.
by the way.
Yeah, you got it's a skilled move. That's what it is.
One of those colonels going to get
So,
caught.
I
one
know.
of these days.
One straight kernel, and things go south.
Well, yeah, well, you know what?
That's actually a really funny story because this happened.
Please tell it.
You
Please
say- no,
tell
you
it.
say it.
You can tell it best.
Well, for a little behind the scenes action, sometimes our producer, Steve Melton, will kind of throw us a curveball. Usually I take it out of break. It's just kind of, I would say, 8, 9 times out of 10. And this one time, Michael had just taken a bite of a protein bar, literally probably 10 seconds going back into on live and on camera. And Steve's like, all right, Michael, we got a little package for you. You're going to take it out of break. And Michael's got this massive protein bar in his mouth, just ready to
I
gobble
took the
it.
biggest bite ever. Because I was like,
timing.
well, this might be the only thing I'll get to my popcorn at halftime.
Oh, no.
And I just looked over at him. I said, what's he going to do in this situation? He's going to be able to handle it? And I think that you swallowed a golf ball
Oh, gosh.
because you somehow recovered.
It's amazing. I did not, get worse for me on that set that night.
Hey, a true professional. Courage under fire.
There you go.
You got the play. You got the play made.
I love it. Well, we talked about getting a chance to know some of these guys a little bit better this season, and Nick and I have a couple of new games on this show that we want to throw your way. Test a little bit of how well
Not
you've been able to
Squid
get to
Games,
know.
right?
No,
No.
not that intense by any means. You'll be okay. Okay. So the first one, it's called You Can Shay That Again. We actually played this game last season. You might have remembered.
Fish, you haven't seen this yet, have you? Okay, neither have I. Okay, good.
Yeah, you guys are
yeah.
both in the dark right
Okay,
now.
good.
This is all new information. So, me and Nick each have a quote from a player or a person on the Thunder roster, could be a coach, and you have to guess which player said that quote. Okay? You guys?
Oh, boy.
All right.
There's
You got
been
it?
so many Zooms.
Yeah.
But I will say this is in the past week, right, Gallo?
Right. Within
We-
the
this past week.
since we last podcasted.
Okay.
Okay, so Gallo, I'll let you go
Yep.
first with your quote.
Okay. The
Do we
quote
have
is
to hit a ding
no,
or anything?
no.
No.
It all depends on how hard you work. If you listen to the right advice and do the right things, you can be as good as you want to be.
Lou Dort.
Shay.
Ooh.
Ding, ding,
Ooh.
ding. Ding, ding,
What
ding.
was your reasoning behind that? Did you
It's
remember
a Shay
hearing
comment.
it? Oh, okay.
Like this, he's got this whole sky's the limit mentality going on right now.
Yeah.
And if you ask him, like, what do you want to improve on? He's going to say everything. So that's kind of what.
Well, I guess Lou Dort because it's a very humble statement. And Dort's, man, he's been saying the right stuff. I'm talking ball player to ball player. He's just saying the right stuff, and it seemed, of course, I was wrong.
And that
but-
was the formula that worked for him to
Definitely.
get him to where he is right now, listening to the right advice and working hard. That's Lou Dort.
good
To
point.
Chris's point, Shea has been beating that refrain, not just about himself, but about the team as well. And as a part of that quote that I left off there, he just talked about they're not putting any ceilings on any of the players that are on the roster, and the team for that matter. And I think as we've talked about seasons of exploration and continuing to test and stretch and pull the roster, they're going to figure out what these guys are made of and what they have, and they're not going to put people in boxes. So I think Shea, of course, talking about his own game as you're mentioning, Chris, but I think from a leadership standpoint, trying to imbue a little bit of that confidence on his teammates as well.
Well, it's been fun to kind of see him take the reins, and that started last year in the 35 games that he played, but also bringing this young group along with him, and they're kind of coalescing around him. And Mark Daigneault says they want to build this organization around Shea because he embodies so many of the fundamental values, and he's totally embracing it. And it's been kind of fun to see, and kind of see his own personal growth and his game evolve, but also his leadership skills evolve. And I think that we're going to see that play out more this year.
And to think that this is year 4 for him.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive that he's willing to take on that responsibility. Now, I know he has, Derek Favors and Moose, as well, as leaders on the team. But when one of your top guns is saying, look, I'm volunteering, I know they have the confidence in me. They're going to ask him to do it anyway. So, for him to say it and speak up really speaks volumes for his maturity. And I think that's really a big part of a player's just as much a part of a player's development as his skills is his maturity. You can see some players that have skills, but the maturity may not be there. They're just skilled. But when you see the combination, I think that's when they start speaking to the group, and they're not afraid for some guy, if Jeremiah Robinson Earl gets mad at Shea and said, I don't like what you said, because And then all of a sudden he looks at him and goes, you know what? He's a good player. He's had some great years. He averaged 24 points a game last year. He shot 51% from the field. He shot 43% from the three-point line. What can I say to this man except yes.
Yeah, you weren't saying that to Marcus Johnson your rookie year.
I was. Hey, you know what? I had to. Bill Walton. I had to. Norm Nixon, Cedric Maxwell. It was almost like when Dean Ritter speaks, that commercial, everybody listens. Did I get that right? Is that guy? Or something like that. But I was like,
For our time, Michael.
I don't want. Yeah. Well, it was a commercial. Fell right overhead. Okay.
Sounds
Well,
good.
somebody out there know what I'm talking about. But when players that are experienced and they've been in the trenches for a while, doesn't matter if it's 4 years or 14. When they speak and you have no experience, you have to listen. You just have to.
I go back to a kind of something interesting that I remember reading about Shea from Doc Rivers, his rookie year. And it was about just earning the respect of your teammates and sort of the growth as a young player into becoming an NBA player. And Doc, for one, couldn't keep him off the floor. But in terms of Shea earning the respect of his teammates, Doc was like, he didn't do it by joking around or taking his teammates out to dinner or trying to be the cool guy. He just did it by coming out every single day and proving that, number one, that he belonged, and that, two, that he was going to be a good player. And that was how he earned the respect as a rookie with the Clippers. I just found that to be fascinating little anecdote.
Yeah. When he was getting, mugged by Patrick Beverly on, practice 94 feet, he's popping right back up. And that's exactly the kind of the attitude that he's brought to this.
Yeah.
All right, Paris, what's your quote?
Okay, you got started on a really, really good one. This one's a little more off the wall. You might need some context. Let me know if you need a hint. Okay. He probably just doesn't want to go home right now.
Oh, that was Mark Dagnall talking about Trey Mann.
Boom.
That's right. That's right.
Good one. Yeah.
So
Chris Fisher's been all over these Zoom media emails, man.
I was
Actually, you maybe were
I
there.
was there that
Yeah.
day.
Okay, yeah.
Trey Mann didn't know what the heck he was doing after practice. Like, what do I do now?
Yep, he
So
was
you're
sitting
just
there
shooting on a hoop.
watching DJ Wilson and Darius Baisley play a game of one-on-one after practice. And the context here was just about rookies finding the routines that work best for them, right? And that's what training camp, it's all about learning on the floor, but also off the floor, right?
Yeah.
The rookies just had their first road game. They're about to go into their first ever back-to-back. So it's really interesting to see them work through this in real time and what that's like for them.
I got a great story for you that pretty much mirrors that. My rookie year in Los Angeles with the Clippers, my first practice, pretty much like that. When it was over, I looked and said, because I was a 4-year college player. So I was used to working a job and going to class and school, in the summertime. And so practice was over, and I looked at the coach, and I said, I'm going to shoot for a while. He says, what for? We've been here for 4 hours. And I said, well, I got nothing else to do. I don't really know anybody here in L.A. yet, but I said,
That didn't take long.
come on. He's right. and I was saying, well, I'm free for the rest of the day? He said, you go do whatever you want to do. He was an assistant coach, Don Chaney, not the Don Chaney that coached at Temple.
Temple, yeah.
Yeah, the one with the Celtics that was a player and a coach. And I was like, really? I go home and I come back tomorrow? That's okay? And he was looking at me going, yeah, okay, just go home. Get out of here. These people probably want to go home too. I said, okay.
A lot of the rookies have talked about that, just the level of freedom that they all of a sudden
Right.
have and trying to figure out what to do with that. But also, you all know when you're a part of a team like this, it becomes a little bit of your family, and you kind of just don't want to go home. You want to hang out with everybody. You want to stick around in the gym. And in my years, I've found that the teams that have been closest, the teams that have been most fun to be around, are the ones where you're looking down and it's like, this has been a 2.5-hour shoot around because guys are just chit-chatting and hanging out and they don't want to get off the court.
I will offer this one anecdote about Trey Mann that we learned about him after draft night. As soon as his name was called, he didn't go out and, celebrate a long time. He went to the gym. It was midnight, early in the morning, and he was in the gym the night he got drafted. So we learned from that moment that he just loves to be in the gym. So seeing him on the floor after practice, just wanting to stay around and watch, two guys play one-on-one randomly, that tracks with him.
And, and with that being said too, Paris, also is that, Nick, when you think about it, one of the things that was really schooled inside of me with these veteran players I played with was managing that time. That's the next big challenge that you don't ever think about. yeah, your time is occupied, but you also have a lot of off time too. And I think that's where the Thunder organization has always encouraged that family environment. They've, you always hear talk of how they all get along. They go out, they hang out together, they go to dinner together, they catch movies together. That's where I think, the mantra of what this team has always tried to create, a family environment. And even past players have said, I love the culture in Oklahoma City via the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that's where that's going to really serve a lot of, which is basically a very young team this year.
I love it. Okay, so let's keep rolling. That was the first game. You can say that again. You guys did great. Well done. This next one.
2-0?
Wow.
lucky.
Wow.
It's early yet. It's
Well,
early
here's-
yet, Mike.
here's-
You still got
Not how you
time.
start,
Here's the
Michael.
thing. We're a team.
Right.
When he scores, he scored too.
That's right.
All right. This
Michael,
next
get your rebound, Chris.
Hey, I do my job too.
We can count on that.
grab
Whatever
those
you
boys.
don't get, I'll rebound.
Oh my goodness. Okay, this next game is called Name That Dude. Very similar to You Can Say That Again, but instead of a quote, we're going to give you a stat line, and you have to guess which stat line belongs to which player. Gallows is specifically from the Milwaukee game. Mine is a cumulative stat. I'm sorry, I cheated here.
Wow.
But
Wow, Paris.
I'm sorry. We'll
All
keep
right.
the same cadence here. Gallo, you go ahead and go
Milwaukee
first.
box score.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
In 16 minutes, this guy scored 13 points and went to the free throw line 5 times, made all 5 free throws, and racked up 3 assists.
Michael, how many times have you watched that game?
Oh, that's right.
I watched it 3 times, but I did not look at the stats. I was watching just more or less what was going on, how Giannis you got to think they were playing against the NBA world, defending world champions.
Full
Can you
strength.
tell me how many minutes?
Full
he
strength
played?
for the first time.
16 minutes. I'll even give you, he came off the bench.
Oh, that helps. He came off the bench. Well, I know the starting lineup because we had JRE at the 5,
Right.
Giddy, Shea, Dort,
Dort,
and we had
Baisley.
Baisley. Okay, so we know those guys. It's not those guys.
It's not them.
But we
Process
still
of
got
elimination
17 other
here.
guys.
Right. There's 10 other guys that played that night, I think.
Making good progress.
13 points.
Those 3 assists.
3 assists, huh?
Yeah.
Who
Dishing
got to
out
the line
dimes.
5 times? Why can't I?
You
think
know, I
about
wanna
who
say
got the
Moose,
line?
but it wasn't Moose.
That
It wasn't Moose.
That's the giveaway.
It's the guy that you wouldn't necessarily think is going to get to the line 5 times. One of the
Poku.
reasons. No.
It wasn't. So we know it's not Moose. We know it's not
Blew my
Poku.
guess there.
Well, that's all right. Keep
You
blowing
can, you
it.
can guess again.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
there's-
You don't get one. It's not a one and
Yeah.
done situation here.
Well, let's just start going through the roster then.
Yeah.
Just start knocking
Aaron
them off.
Wiggins.
All right, Mike, give us one good solid
Teo
guess, and
Maladon.
then I'll reveal.
Well, I just blew my one with Moose.
Oh,
You know who it is?
Ty Jerome.
You got it.
There it is.
I was
Yep.
gonna
There
say,
it is.
Because he made a couple threes and he is always driving to the rim.
Yeah.
And it was
He-
nice to
he's
see him
kinda
have
just-
that kind of game too,
Yeah.
because the game against Charlotte, he didn't get out there and get in the flow like he did. He was in the flow against Milwaukee, with what he was doing with the assist, the rebound, and of course the points. That's always very efficient numbers for just 16 minutes of play.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's an intriguing guy because he's not going to blow you away athletically, but he just knows how to play. And to be able to put him on the floor with his spacing, 42% three-point shooter last year, they'll be able to play multi-guard lineups coming out of that second unit, and he might be able to really connect some of those groups.
Now is he a 1-2? What do you think he's?
He's probably mostly point guard, but
Okay.
you can play him with. I mean, they've played lineups with Trey Mann and him, and
And that's what I
Teo
saw last
Maladon
year.
with him, and
That's what I saw.
yeah.
I saw that 2-headed, monster at the point guard position with him and Teo, which worked a lot last year. And then, obviously, Mark has talked about, lineup experimentation, and with that being said, we're already seeing a lot of that in the first couple of games here, and to even see that, Jeremiah, Robinson Earl was actually at the 5.
Right.
You knew that was coming though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I was as surprised, but I like the fact that he's moving guys around, and Ty Jerome's one of those guys he can move around.
It just speaks to something Chris talks about all the time, that at the guard position in the NBA, you have to be able to shoot the 3.
And he's done that.
Yeah.
And kind of one of the things for me with Ty Jerome is like getting over these preconceived notions about what a player is and what they're supposed to be. Didn't really do a whole lot his rookie year in Phoenix. Comes from a college, Virginia, that is defensively oriented, so you don't initially think offense. But everything that he's done, and every time that he's on the floor, he does something where you're like, he belongs. And clearly he's got a skill set that fits this system. Mark Daniel calls him a system player, but he continues to kind of show what he can do night after night. And there were games last year where you look up and, he's got a handful of assists. He's knocking down threes. And the range, the three-point range is what stands out to me the most, because once you start stepping behind that line, that shot requires a little bit more effort. It requires a little bit more form. And he's got a really quick release.
Yep.
And it's, to your point, Nick, over 40% from three. That's an asset and a huge one in the NBA. Like, he's never going to wow you. He's not going to get to the rim and split the middle and go up and throw it down. But he's been productive, and it's kind of fun to see. And I think that you kind of like that reliability if you're Mark Dagnall and coach, because you can put him in any situation, and he's still going to function.
He reminds me of a gym rat. He reminds me of a type of player where you don't judge the book by its cover. Like when he walks out on the floor, like we were playing pickup games, we've talked about this. I'm going to share this with you again. If we were playing pickup games and he walked in the gym and I saw Nick, Paris, and Fish, and I go, okay, give me Fish, give me Paris, give me Nick, and what's your name? I'm Ty Jerome. Okay. I said,
Jokic.
I said,
yeah.
All right, I'll take you. And then the game starts. He's the best player.
Right.
He's kicking butt, and you're like going, man, did I call that right?
He has what Mark Dagnall calls a defined game, and couldn't you just see him being a guy that can hang in the league, be in the league, 10 years or so as that second guard off the bench, or first guard off the bench in some situations, with just knockdown range and the ability to keep a team going out there.
Michael, we should come up with a last draft pick top 5.
I think that would be very interesting.
Who would be the last pick in open gym with Jokic leading the way?
Yeah.
I'm sure we could come up with a pretty good 5.
We got to kick that around.
Yeah.
Hey, the clock has not started ticking, so we got a lot of time to kind of develop that.
Okay, we got that game off started. That was a tough one, Gallo. That was a really tough one. Mine might be a little bit easier, even though it's a cumulative stat line.
From what period of time?
These past 2 preseason games.
Okay.
So this player has shot 7 of 12 from the 3-point line and 11 of 18 from the field.
Lou Dort.
Yeah.
Well, see,
Boom.
Boom. So much easier.
I'm a team player, and I'm carrying my own weight.
So that was a bunny. That was a layup.
I'm carrying it. Lawson, about Dort. Mm-hmm. I think I was listening to the broadcast, and I was listening to what they were saying. Well, if Lou Dort can match his offense and his 3-point shooting with his defense, I'm going, y'all ain't been watching him, have you? I'm going, okay. Now, I had no idea he would knock down 4 threes in the first half, score 19 points, and don't even play the second half. I'm just going, come on, Luke, get him now, Luke. This is how you're going to have to get him. You get him with your game. And I couldn't believe they made the statement, because they obviously recognize he's a pretty good defensive player.
Definitely.
But they really were kind of like, but his offense is a suspect. He drops 1 3. He drops 2 threes. Mm-hmm. He drops another one. Now they're going, okay, well, maybe he's been working on that shot now.
Well, and
he led the Thunder in threes last year.
Exactly. Yep. And it's a perfect continuation of just the track that he's had since joining the Thunder, which was guarding the best player every night, to last season being guarded by the best defender every night. And so it was one of those situations where, for me as a player, I think about how much confidence that gives you going into a next season. And seeing Lou knock down 4 threes against Milwaukee, I imagine a big confidence booster just moving forward.
And if you get the 3 going, that opens up the rest of your game. 2 of the plays that really stood out to me from Lou against Milwaukee were actually not the threes, but attacking the closeouts. He caught in the corner and went one hard dribble baseline for a dunk. And that's because somebody was actually rushing out to close out on him. And when you have that 3-pointer in your arsenal, the decision-making for the defenders is so much more complicated.
Well, he talked about that in the postgame.
He did.
Just being able to recognize that, right?
And one of the reasons why, and this comes from experience, which this team is going to have to get at some point, is he understands now how certain teams, certain defenders want to play him. And having that understanding is going to allow him to sort of make the proper adjustments to drive, to handle the basketball, to get to the rim and finish, something that he struggled with a little bit last year. But that just comes with knowledge and an understanding of personnel and the league that you only get through playing games. Lou's story, not just with the Thunder, but just in the NBA in general, is an amazing story, for where he came from in Canada, going to ASU, coming to the Thunder, and basically just working his way onto the roster.
Right.
And him just proving at every single step in this evolution that he belongs and that he's improving and that he's deserved of a starter. And I cannot wait to see what is next in his game, because every single year we've seen him expand it more and more and more.
Well, I think that, too, he's really shown that there are a lot of different ways you can enter the NBA. But when you get there, what do you do with that? Because we've seen players be, top 5 picks, lottery picks, and don't work out so well. Now you look at just 1 year at ASU, and then coming in on a 2-way contract, I believe, working his way into a full-time contract, and then not settling there. Once he got the full-time contract, he said, "I'm still hungry. There's more I want to show y'all that you didn't see in that 1 year at ASU." So you're right. It's a great story, and you can't ever have enough of those kind of stories in the NBA, because those are the ones that resonate with people, because it wasn't given to you. You had to earn every bit of it. And I think, when he's out there on the floor, even though this is just season number 3, he's got a long way to go. I think he's ahead of not only expectations, which I don't really like to put on players, but of development as well. You've just seen a rapid development. And I'm going to take you back all the way to the bubble. When I said, okay, this dude going to be a big-time player in this league one day, was at Game 7 against the Rockets. And what were his numbers in that game? You remember?
30.
He dropped 30 points. What, he was knocked down, maybe 7 threes?
Yep.
Incredible. In that environment, a young guy, fresh out of college, 1 year, I said, okay, he understands, being able to show up for the moment and being able to prepare himself in that environment in the bubble, which a lot of, young guys, it was his rookie season, were like this. What is going on? We're in Orlando, and this is the second half of the season. This is no excuses.
I think that Lou represents kind of a portion of this team too, in that he's been in the league now a couple of years. He's going into year number 3, but he's still 22 years old, 23 years old. Like, he is still relatively young. You could characterize him as like one of the older, younger players. Is kind of what I was going through in my head and just getting ready for the season. But he's one of a couple of these guys that, like Baisley and SGA, who we've become familiar with, and they have a couple of years under their belt. But in terms of the NBA and age, they're still so young.
You think about, these guys are going to be 24, 25 with like 6 years of experience.
Right.
5 years of experience.
But it also
it's
means
impressive.
that their games are very undefined.
Right.
And I think that Lou is one of those guys. As much progress as we've seen, he is still an unfinished product.
And if I'm the agent of a player, I'm saying this to myself, this is a great organization for a young player to be in, because the Thunder have a proven track record of developing its own talent. And that's tough to do, but it speaks a lot for the coaching staff. It speaks a lot for the player development, because of all the past players that were young players in this organization that became, all NBA MVPs, all-star MVPs, because of their development in this system. And I think that that's really speaks volumes for a young guy, knowing that, okay, this is where I can, really learn the game and let it be a base for my entire career.
And that's recognized not just around the country, but worldwide. We had a guy, Vít Krejci, comes from, the Czech Republic. He said to us, oh yeah, Oklahoma City is one of the, if not the best place to start your career as a young player.
Wow. And one of the reasons why is you're going to get an opportunity. You're going to get an opportunity to showcase your skills, to improve your game, to be an unselfish player, and to be a part of this organization. And not everybody, like you were saying, Michael, there's a million different ways to get in the league, and not everyone's going to be a lottery pick. No. And to come here and to have those opportunities, we've seen countless guys take advantage of it, and that's what makes it so fun.
And sorry, just to be able to define your game for yourself. How many guys have come in here with a blank slate and not been, painted into a corner or put in a box or anything? But think of a guy like Lou Dort, who's known for his defense, but still was given the opportunity to expand his game, given the green light to shoot the ball, and now look at him coming into his next season.
Well, and I think that a lot of times too, there's that old word called expectations. It's just, I think players, when they come here, especially young players, when you look at the past history of the Russell Westbrooks, the James Harden, the Kevin Durant's, these guys are all young guys here, and they were making a lot of mistakes too. and they grew and they got better at a system. And I think that when you don't always see the results with guys this fast with Dort. You know, you gotta give Dort some credit too,
Definitely.
though. You know what I mean? He kind of like stayed hungry. Like he didn't settle for the two-way contract. Oh, I got the two-way contract out of the way, or I got it now, and then now it's been removed, and I'm in the league now. He didn't, and he was what? How many veterans were on the team that year? The Chris Pauls. You know, there was a lot of talented people. Danilo Gallinari, all guys that were perimeter players, could handle the basketball. He was like a student of the game. So, you really like the fact of what you're seeing. When I saw him knock down those threes, the other night against the Bucks, I was going, yes. Not that telling the broadcasters that were calling the game for ESPN to eat it. I was just saying, you don't know. Just wait,
I love that. And this was so much fun. What was the final score here? Or is it a cumulative?
It's a cumulative. Because
okay.
I don't know if it was
we're a broadcast team.
tandem.
That's right. Okay. Everybody's a winner here.
I don't think we missed a single one. We got them all right.
4-0. That's
4-0,
undefeated. Yeah. I love it. That was a lot of fun. Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
COOP Ale Works is the proud sponsor of Thunder Basketball Universe. Brewer of fan favorites F5 IPA and 99-calorie Ice Chest IPA. You'll find those and many more COOP beers at retailers across Oklahoma. Learn more at CoopAleWorks.com.
Like I mentioned off the top, there are 2 preseason games already in the bag, 2 more left on the horizon for the Thunder. So this is as great a time as any to talk about some observations you guys have noticed so far. Mike, let's start with you. What are your takeaways? What's one of your observations so far from training camp?
Well, I think for me, just looking at the versatility on the roster and seeing how it's playing out. Now, I know it's only been a couple of games, and by the end of next weekend, it'll be 4. But seeing guys in different positions, how they're doing it, how they're able to understand not only to score the basketball, but defending some guy for another team, because what you played against tomorrow night or Thursday night against Denver, Nikola Jokic, MVP player, is totally different than another guy, you'll play against Charlotte, so Charlotte was playing small ball at times. So I think to see the versatility play out and how much it's so, I think, rampant in the team, that they're just not one-dimensional players, that these players are, really what you talk about a lot on the air, Chris, in that it's positionless basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is something that I wrote an article about for OKCThunder.com, actually, just the varieties of different lineups. There have been 35 lineups played in the 96 minutes that the Thunder has played so far in training camp, and some of them as few as 14 seconds out there on the floor. The 2 lineups that played the most were about 8 minutes, those 2 starting groups that we saw at the beginning of both of those games. But you're going to see 3 guards on the floor at sometimes. You're going to see multiple bigs. That's something Mark Daigneault actually talked to us today about, is that he's going to try to play Mike Muscala and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl on the floor at the same time. Isaiah Roby and Darius Baisley and Derek Favors, some combinations of those guys, just to get a look and see. And a lot of those guys can do multiple things out there.
That's what has been so fun to watch about this team, is everybody has the green light when the ball comes off the rim to push the ball up the floor. And we saw that, especially in the Charlotte game in particular for me, the pace of play that leads to for the Thunder, just to be able to roll into things super quickly, such an advantage for this group. And we talk about all the different lineups. That's crazy to hear, 35 different lineups for this group. But how many of those had a guy at the 5 spot who could initiate offense on the offensive end?
And Lawson, what you're saying that now also it doesn't allow the pace of play that you're talking about this team can play with. It doesn't allow NBA defenses to set up their defense.
Right.
Because a lot of times most NBA defenses, when they're able to set up, they're pretty good.
Definitely.
All right, Chris, hit us with your big
takeaway. I'm going to kind of hitch onto the versatility theme here and kind of go a step further and say kind of youthful competitiveness and youthful opportunity. Very few of the roles on this team are defined right now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is because you have so many interchangeable parts with so many young players who we don't really know what they can do completely yet in whatever role they're trying to establish. And because of that, they're going to be given an opportunity to go out there and prove where they belong. Can they play within the offense? Can Josh Giddey play off the ball? Does a guy like Jeremiah Robinson-Earl have the ability to play the 5 long term? Like all these little things that we need to uncover as the season goes on. And so we've heard Mark Daignault say we're trying to foster a competitive environment with these guys who a lot of their skill sets overlap, and that's going to play out. And I think that they're trying to establish that here in training camp, and it's going to ultimately unfold over the course of the season. It's kind of fun to see. We know that Shea's going to probably be there in the starting lineup.
Sure.
You know that Lou Dort's probably going to be there in the starting lineup. And then you start to get to the middle part of the roster, and that's where it's a little bit more blurry. And that's going to be fun to see play out. And I think that there's just a whole lot that we don't know right now.
And Lawson, you're probably the youngest here that just finished their career, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that when you're a player like that and you're in a situation where the coach is saying, look, I know you're a point guard. You were a point guard, right?
Yep.
What if he says, I want to start you at the 3 tonight?
You want me to give you a story?
Yeah, okay, go
Okay.
for it. I'd love to hear it.
Harris said, "Don't try me with that." Ball in my hands, coach.
What have I got myself?
Look out. So this is in middle school. Let's keep that in mind. Okay.
Going way back.
Yeah.
Way back. But the coach came up to me and asked me, he's like, you're a really good player. You can obviously shoot the ball. We can obviously use you on the floor. We already have a point guard. Our perimeter's already full. I was kind of taller than everybody on the floor. He said, what if the only way you could start was if we played you at the 5? And the answer, I mean, I'm in middle school, but like, yeah, of course,
play.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to play.
Yeah.
But I mean, part of it too is just, I want to be on the floor.
Right.
And so maybe that doesn't mean I have to post up and like sit on the block every single time and back folks down. But maybe I can kind of expand my skill set as a point guard. I know what the bigs want to look for now. I know how bigs want to get the ball now. Mike, I know how to throw it to you if you're posted up on the block.
No, don't bounce past the ball into the post.
No.
You know how frustrating it is to be standing there in the post, waiting.
Yeah, is Lawson likes to dribble or something?
Maybe a little bit. No, but that's all really helpful experience. And I have to imagine for a young guy coming into the NBA, you have a wide open runway ahead of you. Those sort of opportunities, even if it's not in your exact comfort zone, that's got to be encouraging too.
Okay, Lawson, you got me thinking now. I'm going to share this story with you too. When I was in the middle part of my career, I was in Seattle. George Karl came up to me one time, after practice. He said, look, Cage, he had just gotten a job with the Seattle. And he says, look, I want to keep you on the floor, but I can't keep you on the floor as a power forward. I'm like going, what? What do you mean?
You know who I am?
Do you know me? I got 60 rebounds in one game to win the NBA title. It's getting bigger now. And he looked at me and says, I really want to keep you on the floor. So tonight, I'm going to move you to the 5, and I want this young kid who I hope you don't mind, but we think he's going to be a pretty good player. I'm going to move him to the 4 spot. His name is Sean Kemp. And I said, and I've been watching Sean in practice. I'm going, I should have saw this coming.
Yeah.
But sure, coach, I'll play the 5 tonight.
It's understandable.
And it extended my career, though.
No
That's what I'm
doubt.
saying.
Yeah.
I ended up playing the remainder of my career with Seattle and on to Cleveland, on to Philly, on to Jersey as a 5 because of that one move that the coach made me feel uncomfortable doing.
So you never went back to the 4 after that?
I never went back to the 4 for the remainder of my career.
Mike, that kind of segues to a point that I was about to make, which is there's short-term competitive, but there's long-term competitive too. And the competitive nature of training camp right now is something that's emanating from the very top. Sam Presti talked about it in his beginning of season press conference that this is a season where they're going to continue to explore which of these players is going to be a part of this long-term Thunder plan. Who is going to be able to be a part of the next great Thunder teams that, it's an arrival when they get into the postseason. Mm-hmm. And so there's some competition that very well, mano-a-mano in practice each day, but there's sort of the bigger level competition too of how can you shape your game into a way that's going to be effective for this team for a long time.
And I honestly believe if I had said no to George that day, probably would have played another year or 2 in the NBA.
Right.
Career would have been over. Because the Sean Kemps were coming into the league. I couldn't jump that high. I couldn't run that fast. I couldn't do all that Sean, was doing.
You weren't making it rain.
No, I was not. I was not.
You weren't smashing over Chris
If anything,
Gatling.
I was making it thunder. It was like just thumping. I was thumping people's heads. Sean was jumping over people's head. And I said, okay, I can't stop that. He's coming, and there's no way. But I can adapt and overcome this situation that would extend me, in my career.
Michael, go a little bit into the mentality of a player too, in the sense that Sean earned his role.
Yeah, he did.
And there's something to be said about
By
earning
pushing
your
me
spot.
to the 5 spot.
Yes. He displaced you, unfortunately for you, but in the long run, it ended up helping you, clearly, in helping your career. But my point is, though, from a player standpoint, all of these guys, whatever role they end up getting in the long run, it's going to be a role that they earned. And from a player standpoint, from a teammate standpoint, that's got to be reassuring because it's just sort of ingrained in the process.
And you're right. You're spot on, because what happens is players in training camp saying, look, I'm going to get the chance. I just got to be ready. This organization will give you the chance.
Right.
And I've just got to be ready. And there's no set pieces on the chessboard, because development, can you put a time limit on it? No. Some guys develop faster than the others. And there's some guys on that roster right now for the Oklahoma City Thunder that are developing faster than others. That's just how it is. I mean, it's just evolution of how some players are. And for me, with Sean Kemp, when he first came to us as an 18-year-old, I was kicking his butt. I was showing him no mercy. About a year or two later, he did the same thing to me.
He was showing you no mercy.
He was showing me no mercy, and I had to accept that.
And when you have a strong organization and a clear culture like the Thunder does, it's a level playing field. It's fair. People watching this at their office jobs, they recognize who's working hard, who's extremely talented at their jobs. And when those people rise to the top, they say, all right, that makes sense. And I think that's the situation that exists here at the Thunder, is that it's an even playing field and that it's a fair competition, and whoever's working the hardest, as we talked about earlier with Shea's quote, and who's doing the right things, as Mark Dagnall says, the leader is a guy that's doing the right thing at that time. And that's how it's going to work with this Thunder organization.
And I think that's beautiful, too, because, Nick, Paris, that's all the player wants.
Yep.
I mean, Paris used to be an athlete as well, basketball player. That's all players want, a level playing field. Hey, just give me a chance. And, at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, you say, Cage, you're coming off the bench. Lawson, you're starting. I can accept that because, look, you know what? It was a fair chance. And that's all players, many times, when you peel back the layers, that's all they really want. Because they're basketball players. They want to play. They don't want nothing to say, okay, I'm going to, Cage, just because your name, I like your name, I'm going to start you tonight. No, we don't want that.
Cool name, Cage. And one other thing I did want to say was just when you are in those new opportunities, Mike, I imagine the transition from the 4 to the 5, it came with some mistakes as well while you tried to figure out what you were doing down there and not necessarily running to your original spot at the 4 spot. And for me, same thing. And so I imagine the room to make mistakes is also just as important as the opportunity itself. And for these guys, I think of preseason overall, seeing the improvement from game 1 to game 2, just as the group overall. Let's talk about the turnovers from Charlotte to Milwaukee. It was 22 against Charlotte and then 9 as a group against Milwaukee. Yeah, so seeing the improvement and seeing it in real time, not only it has to add some confidence, knowing that, okay, I can do this, and I'm not going to get in trouble for making mistakes, especially during the preseason.
And I think that's important because mistakes are good. I don't like the type of player that's out there going, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to make a mistake. And he's making mistakes all the time while he's saying, I don't want to make a mistake. So, you learn from it. And then here's the other thing. You played against the best of the best. The defending NBA champions, they are the best of the best. They were at full strength. And now the second time around, I think you'll take that a little bit differently. You'll realize what, Giannis did, or you'll realize what Middleton did. You'll realize a lot of things that first time, you're going, okay, I was like a deer in headlights. I get it. But, at the second time around, I'm going to be ready for it. And I think that with these 2 games in the book, you got 2 more facing you. It's all nothing but a learning experience because Denver is totally different than Charlotte, and that's just how it is. You're going to have to realize that these are different teams. The Bucks are totally different than Denver, and you have to pretty much tell yourself that's the adjustment you learn to make as a pro. Sometimes you get a little time to do that, and sometimes that window is very short on a second night of a back-to-back.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, Chris, thank you guys so much for your insights. This was so much fun. Welcome to the new studio. We were so glad that you guys could be with us today. This was absolutely fantastic. So thanks so much.
Get to take something back here with
Seriously.
us?
Take a little souvenir.
Yeah.
Anything for the Valley Sports Oklahoma crew.
We love it. Well, before we let our listeners go, we have to make sure that you are up to date on what's on tap for the Thunder coming down the rest of preseason. So the next 2 games for the Thunder, like we mentioned, Wednesday, that game is going to be against Denver. You'll be able to see all 4 of these faces on Valley Sports Oklahoma. Be sure to tune in and watch that game. And quick turnaround, the group has the second night of a back-to-back that is also against Denver the very next night. And that's going to be in Tulsa in the BOK Center, and you can watch that game on the Thunder mobile app. So until then, thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, Thunder up and catch you later.